John Hope.
Indeed, we do have a new tropical storm out there, not very far, I'm afraid, from being a hurricane. Looking at reports from reconnaissance aircraft, we're seeing some pretty strong winds out there. Let's go have a look at it, shall we? And we'll take you across the ocean. I'll show you the big picture, and you can see where it is. Right there is our tropical storm Florence, just designated one this afternoon after having been upgraded to a depression at just 11 o'clock today. Tropical wave being monitored out here 1,200 miles away from the islands. And we're looking at a very active tropical wave in the Caribbean. We'll talk more about each one of those features. But first, let me give you the latest information we have from the Hurricane Center on Tropical Storm Florence. At 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, centered at 30.3, 72.6, and that's 385 miles south-southeast now of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and it's drifting toward the west-southwest, a pretty slow rate of speed, about 6 miles an hour or so. And the actual measured pressure now by reconnaissance aircraft was 998 millibars. Looking at the satellite picture, not terribly organized yet around the center, although we can see a very well-defined low-level center, but a lot of the thunderstorms are just outside where the center is. Nevertheless, we have some very strong winds reported, especially in these thunderstorm clouds just to the east of the center. It is not moving very much. As you saw there, it is only moving toward the west-southwest at about 6 miles per hour. Now, we have another disturbed area in the Gulf, no sign of any development there. A very strong tropical wave here in the Caribbean that we have to monitor very, very carefully. No sign of any circulation there yet. Out in the Atlantic, halfway across the ocean, well, about 1,200 miles or so from the Leeward Islands, we have a disturbance is a little bit better organized and has the possibility, anyway, of being a tropical depression within the next day or so. And now we'll take you to the Pacific coast, off the coast of Mexico, where we still have a Hurricane Lane, just barely a hurricane now. That's winding down pretty fast. We think it's going to continue to do that. Not much left in the way of deep thunderstorms around the center. Also, it's expected to turn more toward the north the next day or so and bring moisture into the southwest part of the United States. Finally, we have a typhoon that's beginning to batter Okinawa. It's a powerful typhoon. Sailma is the name. It is top winds about 140 miles an hour, and they're beginning to gust to about 50 to 60 miles an hour, the latest reports from Okinawa. Looks like a pretty bad blow in the next day or so on Okinawa. That's it then. Now let's get back to Jennifer.
Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch. I'm Christina Abernathy. We do have some stormy weather to tell you about, including tornado warnings in Wisconsin, in Chippewa and Eau Claire counties. Take cover immediately if you live here. We'll have more on that coming up, but first, let's take a look at our tropical update with Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks, Christina. We have a new tropical storm Florence out there, a couple of other interesting features. Let's get right to the large-scale map. I'll show you where they are. Florence is our number one here. That's on the brink of hurricane strength. Believe it or not, it's strengthened rather quickly in the hurricane reconnaissance, found winds above hurricane force at flight level. Area of showers and thunderstorms covers the western Caribbean. We're monitoring that rather carefully. Tropical wave out here in the central Atlantic showing some signs or potential for development down the road. And a little trough of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico we're watching. Also a low just moved off the coast of Africa as well. So many, many features out in the Atlantic. Here's our tropical storm Florence as of 5 p.m. Winds up to 70 miles per hour, not hurricane strength yet, but getting close to hurricane strength. Moving to the west-southwest at 6, and right now we think it's probably going to meander around out there a while. And right now poses no threat to the southeastern United States, but as a matter of fact, it may never strike land and end up moving off to the northeast. But nevertheless, we're going to monitor it ever so carefully, and we should see some seas pick up along the shores of the east coast. Now here's the latest satellite image. The coast of the United States right up along here in the very upper left hand of your screen, circulation center here. And we have an upper level trough that's sitting right to the west of it, very dry air aloft over here. So if it does attempt to move toward the coast, we think there's enough of a buffer zone that the worst it could get would be a Category 1 hurricane, but we're not too worried about that just yet. Now, most of the showers remain on the eastern side, and we have to wait to see whether or not those showers are going to come all the way over the top of circulation. So we'll continue to watch that rather carefully. and we'll give you the latest information on Hurricane Lane in the Eastern Pacific next time. Let's get back to Christine in the studio now.
Well, we want to take a look at what's going on across the U.S.
You're watching Storm Watch here on the Weather Channel. Good afternoon. John Hope is standing by with the latest on Tropical Storm Florence and another area we're watching very, very closely in the Caribbean this afternoon. John?
Yes, indeed we are, Mike. Well, as far as Florence is concerned, the good thing is it's not really moving very much. It's getting a little bit stronger, but it's not moving toward the United States, nor do we expect it to. We think it will stay very nearly stationary tonight and even through tomorrow, but then after that begin to move away from the coast. There it is right there, still spinning around, and as Mike mentioned, we have this area of concentrated showers and thunderstorms in the Caribbean Sea that we're beginning to look at very carefully. And as a matter of fact, the Hurricane Center has an aircraft on the way down there right now to check it out. And we have a tropical wave out here 800 or so miles east of the Leeward Islands that's showing a little bit more life this afternoon than it has been. Now at 11 o'clock this morning, the center of Tropical Storm Florence was at 30.4, 73.1. That's 385 miles south-southeast of Cape Hatteras. Not moving that direction, though. It's not moving at all, really. And so right now, we don't consider this a real threat to the United States, except to tell you that we do expect to see some high surf come in up on the mid-Atlantic coast and all the way down to Georgia and even the northern part of Florida. That'll be good for surfers. You're going to like that. Looking at the satellite picture, it appears, again, to be getting a bit better organized. So we think this very likely will be upgraded to a hurricane, but it's not going to increase very rapidly because we don't have very good outflow in the upper atmosphere, and we don't think we're going to, so we're not looking for a whole lot of increase because of that. In the Gulf, we continue to see one little cluster of showers in the western Gulf, no sign of any organization. Here's our Caribbean disturbance at the bottom of your picture. We'll focus in on that. Very large area of showers and thunderstorms covering a whole lot now of the western Caribbean Sea. This is Jamaica, Honduras is here, Nicaragua. This is drifting toward the west. We don't see a good, well-defined low-level circulation yet, but we're watching this very carefully, and we think there's a good chance that one will form the next day or so. So that is something that we're going to be watching very carefully, and we'll report on it to you. This tropical wave out here in the Atlantic, about 800 miles east of the island, showing a little bit more life this afternoon. That has some possibility of developing. We think it might move north of the island zone. Lane is winding down. Top winds are 50 miles an hour. It is beginning to spread some moisture up into the western part of the United States, so California and even up into Oregon and Washington. That'll do it this time for the tropics. Now let's get back to Mike.
And John, back here in the lower 48, our only concern is this one weather front, and it is causing some storms now through the Ohio Valley and a lot of action along the lower Mississippi.
It's time now for Storm Watch here in the Weather Channel. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Paul Goodlow alongside Kim Perez. And we do have some strong and severe thunderstorms going off in parts of the Northeast. Strong thunderstorms throughout parts of Texas. We'll come back and detail you on that. But right now, we have a hurricane off the Atlantic. Let's get the latest with our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons.
Thanks, Paul. And Hurricane Florence is almost stationary, drifting very slowly to the northwest. We have a couple of other low-pressure systems out in the Atlantic tonight as well. Let's look at the large-scale picture. First of all, look at the neutral and favorable areas have grown rather dramatically, especially in the Caribbean tonight. We have our hurricane out here just off the east coast. You see the hurricane symbol there. That's this one right here. We also have a very weak and small low-pressure center in the Gulf of Mexico. It's kicking up some showers. A very large area of thunderstorms. Hurricane reconnaissance is just out there, has not found a surface center there. There is a fairly well-defined mid-level center. This system is moving to the northwest, and as it goes to the northwest, it's going to take with it a very favorable environment in the general direction of the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to have to watch that. We also have a tropical wave in the north side of that. There's a low-pressure center on it, and thunderstorms are flaring up in that. And temporarily, it's in a fairly favorable area for development. That could be a tropical depression at any time. And here's another rather ill-defined low-pressure center, but broad off the east coast of west coast of Africa as well. So that's quite an active period there. Now, here's Hurricane Florence as of 5 p.m. Wind 75 miles per hour, moving to the northwest at 3. Now, we think it's going to continue to move around very slowly out here until a trough from the mid-latitudes up here comes sweeping down and takes it off to the northeast. There may be a couple of them needed to do that. but it doesn't appear right now that it's going to impact the coast directly. However, indirectly, it is going to impact the coast via some high surf along the coast, anywhere from 8 to 12 feet from southern Cape Hatteras down to central Florida. Watch out for the rip currents, and if you get caught in one, swim down the beach or up the beach, not against it into the shoreline. This is the last visible satellite imagery here before it gets dark. You can see the center right in here spinning around. Now look at the difference here on the infrared. The infrared imagery shows the circulation as well, but the difference here is that there are no very deep thunderstorms here. This is still tied up with an upper level low, and because of that, we don't expect this system to get very strong. It could get a little bit stronger, but not much stronger than it is right now. Now here's this large area of showers here spreading up toward the northwestern portion of the Caribbean. We're going to watch this very carefully the next couple days. The Cayman Islands are going to get some heavy rain tonight, so make sure you have your umbrellas when you go out there. Gulf of Mexico, here's that tiny little low to the south of the Louisiana, Georgia coastline, not showing signs of development right now, but nevertheless, we'll keep you updated on it very carefully. Well, let's get back to the studio now with Paul.
Thanks, Dr. Lyons. We have a long cold front here kicking off